guys, welcome back to my channel. I hope you're having a great day so far. So today I'm going to be showing you how to get this perfect festive party, Christmas party, office party makeup look. I'm going to be using as many things that you guys might have or will be easy to get your hands on. So very few products that are limited edition or anything like that. I've got one product that is limited edition, but it is still widely available. Everything else is very easy to get your hands on. And I had you guys vote for the eyeshadow palette that you wanted me to use because I wanted to make sure that as many of you either had the palette I used or had something that you felt was similar enough that you could replicate it. So I have gone with the Sultry palette from Anastasia, which is what you guys voted for. By 40%, this one got against the others that I put in the poll, 40%. So this is the palette we're going to be using today to get this look. As you can tell, it's not a classic red lip gold eye. That is exactly what I did last year for my kind of holiday makeup tutorial. So if you want a much more classic red lip gold sparkly eye look, then I will link down below last year's makeup look because that's exactly what I did last year and I didn't want to just do the same thing again. So this is more of a kind of anti-Christmas makeup look, but still perfect, still proper glam, still really festive because it's glittery, it's still very evening appropriate, it's still full glam, it still feels very like fun and young and like festive and just perfect for any kind of party. So hopefully this will be giving you some inspiration for New Year's, for Christmas parties, office parties that will be coming up throughout December, thick and fast. In fact, I'm going to one right now. So this is exactly the look that I have chosen for my Christmas party with my friends tonight. I have done a plethora of choices for blush and lipstick towards the end, so if you don't have the lip or blush products that I've actually got on my face, I have given you many different options depending on what your preference is to show you what it looks like with different lips and what you could use for a blush alternative. So I hope this is as helpful as it possibly can be, and I'd love to hear what you guys are up to this Christmas in the comments down below. Let's get on with the tutorial. Okay, so before I get started on my eyes, I've just done a little bit of prep. So the first thing I did was I used some of my vitamin rich face base from Bobbi Brown, just because it's been a long time, being that I'm getting ready at night. It's like 6 PM now. So it's been a long time since I did my skincare this morning and my face is a little bit, you know, drier throughout the day. So I put some moisturizer on as like a prep before I started my makeup, and I did that like 10 minutes ago. And I've just put on some of my MAC lip scrub on my lips, just because again throughout the day they've got drier than they were when I was getting ready this morning. So it's just to make sure that my lips are hydrated and smoothed and not dry, and that my face is hydrated and ready for makeup, in the same way that it would be if I had just done my skincare routine in the morning and was getting ready for the day. So important to do that. So I'm going to start off prepping my eyes, and I'm going to be using my Tarte Shape Tape. This is really all I use for Shape Tape. What is that? That doesn't even make any sense. This is the only use I have for Shape Tape these days, is as a eyeshadow primer. I really don't use it as a concealer anymore. It's just too heavy, too matte, too drying and aging on my under eyes. So I just whack a bit on the lid and then I use this concealer brush to make sure it's right up to the brow and it's really covering all of this part here, because I get quite red lids but also some darkness on this, right on this inner corner. And especially when you're doing makeup for like a night out or party where people are going to be taking photos, you want to make sure you're kind of covered from all angles, because a lot of the time you're not in control of those photos. It's not like you're taking a selfie making sure you've got your best angle covered. It's like someone else is going to be taking a photo and you're going to be in the background like this. You know, things, the odds are against you as it is. The amount of photos that I've been in the back of doing something like this, or, you know, like something like that. You just want to make sure, you know, that there's no darkness as well on top of the unflattering photos that are bound to take place. So that is quite heavy, it is quite a lot. I'm making sure I'm bringing it right into my nose so that everything is blended, and then I'm going to use my beauty blender to make sure that all the sort of heavy, thick, cakiness is taken away and it's just a nice blended, even base. Obviously, as far as setting or not setting your shadow base is a completely personal preference. I know lots of makeup artists will use a sort of more sticky type of eyeshadow primer because that will give you more pigment, because the shadow is blending on top of the sort of stickier, tackier primer, whereas I prefer to set my concealer because for me the priority is ease of blending, and obviously putting some powder down for the powder to blend into is going to make that easier. And my blending game is lazy and rushed and cat-candid, so you know, I can take all the blending help I can get. Just making sure that whole area is powdered down. This is the MAC Mineralize Skin Finish in the shade Light, so it just kind of makes that whole area brightened, and it does have some coverage as well, so any sort of redness or discoloration, veins still poking through are all kind of covered off. I will put all my brushes in the description because I know I'm going to forget to tell you. So I actually asked you guys, because that's just the kind of person I am, what eyeshadow palette you would most like to see me use for this holiday makeup tutorial, and you voted overwhelmingly for the Sultry palette from Anastasia Beverly Hills, which is fun because I haven't really used this for a while and it is very much a sort of party makeup palette. Perfect for this kind of full glam look. So I'm going to start off with Twig, this shade here, and I'm just going to start blending that into the crease. I'm not going to be doing, like I usually do favour a really blown out shadow look, just to make your eyes look bigger, lifted. I really like that look, but today I think I'm going to do a nice halo. I feel like nothing says like Christmas glam, New Year's glam like a halo eye. I love a good halo eye, so that's what we're going to do. So I'm just kind of following my eye socket. Because I have hooded eyes, I'm kind of lifting my head back and leaving my hood and my lid space clear, so it looks like I don't have a hood right now, but when I look forward I obviously do. So it's just about checking, just keep on going back and checking, is that shadow where you want it? Once your eye is open and you're relaxed, is that shadow where you want it? Makes things easier to blend if you lift your eyebrows and tilt your head back, but obviously you need to check the placement when you're doing that. So I'm just kind of following my socket. I'm not really going past the end of like where my lash line is, and then going right into this inner corner here. So I'm just going to do a little dab of birch just to help me blend the edges of this. I want this to come right up towards my brow because that's kind of how you get a really nice dramatic eye, especially when you have a hooded eye, when a lot of this space is going to be covered up. I want to take this right up to the brow. So again, using that shade Birch just to blend out that Twig shade around the edges. Remember, you come out further here than you think because you can always clean this up with a wipe, but if you haven't gone far enough, you're going to have more of a problem. Then I'm going to move on to the shade that's going to make the halo. So I'm going to use my Sigma E25, and I'm using the darkest shade in the palette, which is this dark brown dystopian shade, on a smaller brush. Let me see if I can get a bit closer so you can see what I'm doing. But instead of coming right out here like I would if I was doing like just a smoky eye or just doing a regular blown out shadow, because I'm doing a halo, I'm kind of, the shadow is kind of starting like in line with my lower lash line. And I'm just packing that on. They're not worrying about making it too neat. Remember, I'm sure you've heard this lots of times, but when it comes to halo eyes, they look terrible until the very last second. When you've finished them, they look amazing, but they look a real mess for the rest of the time. So don't worry about that. And they're much easier than they look. I feel like they look really effective, but they're actually super easy. I'm actually going to switch to a smaller brush. I'm going to use my Rephr P07A for the inner corner, because I think that other one was going to make it a little bit trickier because it's a bit bigger. So not going right into the corner here where you want your inner corner highlight, just kind of starting just back from where my inner corner highlight would be. This is also a really nice flat brush, so it's perfect for packing. You can see it's really packing that colour on nicely. Make sure you're going all the way down to the lash line So what I'm going for with this eyeshadow is I just want it to look really like sexy and smoky, but also like fun and party appropriate. So just to smoke that over the top, at the moment obviously we've got this huge gap, so we just want to join these two sides together. So I'm just using this really thin E42 from Blank Canvas, which is just going to give me the perfect little blend across the top so that the two sides add together. By the way, I can just hear my oven alarm going off. There's going to be all kinds of noises today because my kids and my husband are here. And it's dinner time, bath time, bedtime, all that kind of stuff. So I'm really sorry if you can hear any annoying background noises, but I don't know if I can do a lot about it, to be honest. This is real life. I'm just kind of slowly adding more colour, making sure that everything is even, making sure that the top is blended, and making sure that you can see the top when I open my eye, and you can see already things are kind of looking a bit better, taking a bit more shape. I don't want to look like I've been punched in the eye, but I do want to make sure that you can see this deeper shade when I open my eye. So it needs to go as high enough for wherever your crease ends that is above the crease, because otherwise all your work is going to be hidden by your eye. Your own eyelid is going to play you for a fool. So I'm just using a clean brush to blend the edges up here, making sure everything is blending nicely together. And you really don't need to have all the same brushes. I always list them because people always ask, but you just need to, you know, have a look at the shape and size of the brush, have a look at what you've got, and just use whatever you have that's similar. It doesn't have to be the exact same brush. So now I'm going to just do the halo in the middle. So I'm just going to wipe off the same brush I used earlier, that 02 from Rephr, just to make sure that there's any excess is off of there from the previous shades we put on, but also to make sure that this brush is a little damp. So I'm just using a wipe and I'm just wiping the excess off like this, and that's just going to mean the brush is cleaner and also a little damp, which will help the shimmer shade perform at its most metallic. So you could really use any of the shimmers in here you fancy for this bit. Any of these are going to give a really pretty, beautiful halo effect. Using something like Teak, which is this shade here, will give you a much softer, smokier, you know, bronzy look. Same thing with this shade, what's it called? Cinder, will give you a similar effect. A more feminine, sort of pretty girly effect if you use this rose gold shade or Pearl. You could use Fresh and keep everything matte. Really up to you. I'm going to use Cyborg, which is this crazy silver shade, because that's going to give us the most dramatic effect. And I feel like it's a real sort of party shade, this, especially like a New Year's type party. So I'm just going to start packing that on in the centre of the lid. And do you see how it's nowhere near as intimidating of a shade as it looks in the pan? In the pan it literally looks like the colour of metal, like it looks bonkers. And I definitely thought, you know, when I bought this palette, that that is a shade that is just going to sit there, but it's actually gorgeous and it's really not as unwearable as it looks to my eye anyway. Just really colouring that empty space in the middle. Obviously you could have carved this out with concealer if you wanted to make it even punchier. You could also have gone in with a finger. You can just totally tailor it up to you. And as far as how big the halo is, totally up to you. You can make it wider or narrower depending on the size of your lid, how much space you have, and just how you want it to look like. But just remember, you can change it up. It's very easy to adjust a halo. You could just keep on putting more of the shimmer shade on, making it bigger, or you can put some more of the mattes on and tone it down. It's very easy. I'm happy that I've kind of got enough of that middle pop shade on. I'm going to use my pencil brush and I'm going to go in with the shade Slate, which is that grey matte shade, to blend these two together, because it's a nice sort of middle ground between the two. It's kind of got that sort of grey silver tone that goes with the shimmer, with the Cyborg shimmer, but it blends really beautifully in with Twig as well, because it's a matte and it's got that kind of same grey cooler undertone. I'm just gonna make sure this all blends and it doesn't look like too much like just a little strip. Just want it to literally look like a spotlight. So I'm just going to go in with some black liner. This is the Milk Makeup one in the shade Boss. I feel like this again, the halo eyes, especially where they're this dark and dramatic, once you've got your mascara on, everything just really comes together. But this will definitely benefit from a nice dark waterline to kind of make everything look more neat. So I'm going to just take my wipe and do a little bit of a clean up on this outer edge. I don't necessarily want it to be like a really sharp line, so I'm using the side of my finger as opposed to the edge. If I went like this, that would make like a really clean swept look, which I do really love, so it's up to you if you want to do that. But for this one I want it to be a bit softer, so I'm just kind of using the side of my finger, clearing that up, and then I'm going to go in with my Tatcha Silk Canvas primer before we do mascara, just because that's going to give this a sec to work into the skin. So I always have a little bit of a gap between primer and foundation, so I'm going to work this in and then go and do my mascara, so there's a little bit of time for it to settle into the skin. So for mascara I'm going in with my just regular Pat McGrath mascara that I'm using every day at the moment. Really loving this one, and I'm just going to make sure there's lots of coats of this to balance out that eye. So I'm covering my lashes from the underside as well as from the top, just to make sure that they are fully coated, because this first coat is the most important as far as getting the shape kind of set in place. So for foundation, I feel like foundation is the most important decision you're going to make as far as a night out. So what I kind of go for is I want something that is going to look beautiful in person but also not cause me any problems in flash photography. As you know, you're going out at night, people are going to take flash photos at parties, at Christmas do's, all that kind of stuff. So I don't want a foundation that's going to flash back, and I don't want a foundation that is super dewy and glowy, because under a flash, under a burst of light and under lots of lights in wherever you are, because it's nighttime, it's going to look very shiny or even sweaty. So I definitely kind of go a step down from the amount of glow and dew that I usually would use during, you know, any other time. So I'm going to be using Armani's Luminous Silk. For me, this is like the perfect evening flash photography foundation, because it looks really beautiful and satin, almost luminous, but there's no shine, glow, dew to it, and it photographs beautifully. It does not bounce back whatsoever. I want to make sure that, again, you know, any kind of angle, any photo taken from any view, you are getting all of your bases covered as far as blending your foundation, making sure there's no gaps, making sure there's no lines or tide marks, and making sure you're going right into the hairline, making sure you're getting your ears, going down your neck. So once I've kind of covered everything as much as possible, I'm just going to go over with my beauty blender, make sure there's no excess sitting on the skin, no heaviness, no cakiness. Just take all of the extra product away and give it a final blend. That's what the sponge is really good for. So I feel like you build coverage better with the brush, but undoubtedly Beauty Blender will take any kind of cake and heaviness away. You can see this. Well, you can't really see my body, but this foundation is still quite a bit lighter than my body, but we're gonna bronze and contour and all that stuff, and so it will match, because my face is still quite a lot lighter than my body. So before I go into concealer, I'm going to do my cream contour, just so that no powder and cream gets upset with each other. So I'm going to be using the Charlotte Tilbury Contour Wand. Some people hate this applicator. I kind of like it. I just find it really quick and easy, and the right size and all of that stuff. And you'll see I haven't opened it, I haven't squeezed any product out, I'm just using the excess there. I've started almost using this on a daily basis because I just find it really helps me kind of control like my bronzer application, because it stops any product traveling like too far down. I'm not going to use a cream contour on my nose. I'll just do some bronzer on there, and I don't use contour on my jawline because I just don't feel like I need it for my face shape. I'm just trying to give myself some kind of definition to my cheekbones, and then also bring in my forehead, bring back some shade and light to my face. But I love this contour because it's it's foolproof. You don't have to stress about it. See how easy it blends in. It's never going to be like a disaster because it's just so easy to blend, as long as you don't place it, you know, anywhere too crazy. And I'm just going to put some excess down there, give me a guideline for when I go in with my bronzer. So the key is to not bring this too far in for me, because my face shape is quite sort of narrow and long, so I don't want to bring anything too close to the centre of my face. So you see I drew those lines quite short and kept them quite high. Again, if you have a wider face, you might want to bring them in closer towards your mouth, but the angle you're going from is top of ear towards corner of your mouth. That's kind of the idiot's guide as far as where to put contour. And with this, you can just keep on building. Like if you want more, you can put a little bit more. If you want it really, really subtle, you could always do it under your foundation. I know people have started loving that technique since Scott Barnes did his video with Tarte, but for me, this is kind of how I prefer to do it. If I do it under my foundation, it just doesn't show. So now I can do concealer, because that's all the creams going down on my face. So I'm going to go in with my Shiseido concealer in all the usual places. Generally, I don't do a huge big triangle. I'll just place the concealer here, which is where I've got my darkness, where I want to contour my nose a little bit. And then I'll blend it into the triangular shape so that there's less product up here where I have lines. I don't know if I sort of mention this very often, because I guess it feels like something that I've said a million times, but obviously lots of you guys are new. But the order I blend my concealer is that I kind of go down the centre of my face apart from my nose first, then I go to my under eyes, because leaving it to sit there for that second will give you more coverage, and then I go down my nose because I want that to be giving me a natural contour without having to go in with a contour. By leaving that concealer to set for a second down the bridge of my nose, it's almost gonna contour it for me, but in a softer way, because I'm just not really that skilled as far as contouring. But this isn't one that you want to leave there for like minutes, because it will dry down and become harder to blend. So you can see I'm blending that out, and it's still giving me that lifted, brighter under eye area, but because all the product was here and then blended that way, there's ultimately a lot less going into like my problem area as far as lines and wrinkles. And when all that is blended out and I'm happy, then I'll go down the bridge of my nose, pinching the sponge to keep it a nice narrow line. You can see, because it's only a thin little amount and I've left it there, it's harder to blend, but I don't want it to blend that much, so that's perfect for me. Just blend it and keep working with it until it's blended enough, but it's kind of keeping almost that visible stripe, that once you go over with powder and bronzer, everything will blend together and give you a bit of a contoured, snatched nose situation without the effort. So I'm just going to set some bits now. I'm going to set very, very lightly my under eye area with my Huda powder to make sure that concealer is not going anywhere for the whole night, and also making sure that when I blend my cheek products, there's no kind of battle between where my concealer ends. I'm making sure I'm using a skin toned powder, so that again I'm not kind of risking bounce back or white cast or anything like that. Making sure that I'm going heavier over my nose, so that as my skin warms up and all that stuff, I'm not going to get mega shiny nose. And then I'm going to stretch my face and dust off any excess under here, because the last thing you want over the age of 10 is excess powder under there. So sweeping off any that you don't need once it's all set. And then I'm going to set the rest of my face with my By Terry powder in the shade 200, which is going to give me a really nice blend. I don't really need to set this foundation. I've worn it millions of times without setting it for events and things. But I do love this powder and how much of a beautiful finish it gives me. It gives me glowy, luminous finish, but with the smoothing quality of that gorgeous powder. And I will show you this makeup in flash photography at the end, so you can see that we're not having any problems with any of this makeup with flash. We're not gonna be flashback Marys today, guys. No flashback Marys today. So I'm gonna go briefly back and finish my eyes now, and all I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take my teeny weeny Rephr, in fact no I'm not, I'm gonna take my slightly bigger. So I'm gonna take my Sigma pencil brush and I'm gonna go back into the first shade we use, that twig shade, and just run this under the eye, under the outer kind of 2/3 of the eye, to make sure that the bottom, and I'm just going to run this under the lash line and kind of 2/3 of the way towards my inner corner, just to make sure that everything is all joined up together and smoked out. It's also going to hide some of those lines under there, which I am really a big fan of. And I'm going to quickly do my brows and then we'll be back because that's not very interesting to watch. And if you are someone who's interested in brows, then I do have my brow tutorial in the description box. Okay, so I've just gone back in with another coat of mascara and I've done some lower lash mascara and my brows, and now we're back to the cheeks. So I'm going in with my Anastasia Saddle bronzer, really any bronzer you fancy. I would kind of recommend to steer away from a really glowy shimmery bronzer for kind of the same reasons we talked about earlier, being like too mega glowy and glittery and shimmery all over can be a mistake. Obviously we do whatever we personally feel, but that is just my jam as for my skin and how I want my makeup in photos. I prefer a more matte or at least satin bronzer, and then to use glowy blushes and highlights for my glow to kind of keep it under control. So I'm using a smaller bronzer brush. This is the Rephr P07A, but this is the prototype number, so I'm not sure what the current number is, but this is like their sort of tapered contour brush, so it is a bit smaller and pointier than like the MAC 135, so it's just kind of giving me more of a sculpted bronze, which I'm really loving at the moment. Kind of keeps everything more contained rather than sometimes I feel like I'm bronzing my whole face, which again, for my face shape, if you have a wider face or round face, you may want to use a bigger bronzer brush, but for me, when I'm trying to look sculpted, I want to use a smaller brush and keep everything on the perimeter of my face. So this is where I'm going to kind of contour my nose. I'm just taking some bronzer mainly on the point, and I'm going to squidge it and run this down the sides. And this is just going to make sure that I still have a nose, because when you use, you know, a lot of concealer and foundation on your nose and you don't go back in with bronzer, it kind of gets lost on your face. So I like to build up quite a lot of bronzer because one, it is going to fade throughout the evening. Once I went on my Christmas works do and we stayed out until 5 in the morning. So you might think, oh, it only needs to last a few hours, but if you go on my works do's, not the case, you could be out for days. So what I'm doing is I'm kind of focusing the majority of the product at the perimeter of my face and then blending inwards, and that's kind of giving me more of a contour as well as the cream contour that we already applied, even though this is a warmer, bronzier shade than that Charlotte Tilbury. It is still a pretty neutral type of bronzer, so it is gonna give you a bit of an extra sculpt if you use it in that way, which is always welcome in this house. And I'm again making sure I'm going around. I don't want to have bronze here and then a big gap at my temple. I want to make sure everything is joining nicely, and the same thing with my jawline. Not necessarily trying to sculpt my jawline, like I said, I'm just trying to make sure that there's some kind of light and shade and definition and shape to my face, having taken it all away with concealer and foundation. So next for highlight, I'm going to go in with my Charlotte Tilbury Magic Star, and this is the only thing that I'm using in the video that is limited edition, but it is still available everywhere, so I don't feel too bad about it. So I'm using this above the brow arch, and this is where we're putting all the glow back into our face now. And I like to bring this quite far into the centre of my face. The one product I like in the centre of my face, which is the highlight, so that when you're looking straight on, you're having pictures from straight on, you can see the glow on your cheeks still, instead of glow over your whole face, which is what you'll see if you use a really dewy foundation under flash. Here we're just going to see it where we want it. And I don't highlight the tip of my nose because, like I said, I've got a really long nose, so I'll just highlight the bridge where I want the light to hit, but I don't go past sort of here. I leave that bit well alone because I don't want to draw attention to the size of it, frankly. Someone asked me the other week if I had a nose job, and I was like, what, and made it longer? I mean, what did you think it looked like before? So for, I almost forgot to do my inner corners and my brow arch. What am I even thinking? Very important for a party look to do inner corners using that same highlight. Just going to brighten everything up. Hit us up with that sparkle. And then under that brow arch as well, using my Rephr pencil. Lift that brow arch without the surgery. So I actually have looked at a few options for blush. For me, for blush, for these type of events, we've got a really big dramatic eye look. I want a really soft, subtle, natural blush. So I've got a few to suggest that will all work beautifully depending on which one you have and your skin tone. So we have MAC's Warm Soul, then we have NARS's Madly, then we have Chanel Elegance, and then we have Laura Mercier Fresco. Any of these will work beautifully with any kind of party makeup look. So as I said, I'm going to go in with Fresco at the moment because it's just the one that works kind of the best on my skin tone. I can really build it up. It's a nice glowy blush and it's going to work beautifully with really any look you use. You can really build these Laura Mercier blushes as well. They are very buildable, you know, from a really light wash up to a really punchy blush, so they'll work for lots of skin tones. This one will just about show as a subtle blush on me in summer, so I think it will work up to like an NC42, but again I'm trying to keep the majority of this high on my cheek, keeping everything away from the centre of my face and just giving me that glow and that colour. And I am going to use a lot of blush because blush, as we know, it's like the first thing to go off your face, so I will apply it quite heavy and know that by the time I'm kind of wherever I'm going, it will have calmed down. So again, lips are going to be completely personal preference. I know lots of people want to wear a red lip every single day of December, but I feel like last year I did a red lip in my Christmas festive party type makeup look, so I don't want to do a red this year because we did it. We did that red lip last year. Now I know everyone's going to want to have a red lip or be shouting at me, you should have done a red lip because it's Christmas. So I am going to show you a red lip, but I'm also going to show you a nude because I feel like some people will prefer a nude. I would wear this with a nude just because there's a lot going on in my eyes, so I'd like to keep my lips cleaner. So my choice for a nude lip will be MAC's Spice. Using a lip liner is definitely going to give you more longevity to your lip shade as well. And then I'm going to use MAC's Down to an Art, which is like one of my all-time favourite nudes. It is a matte formula, so it's going to be really long wearing, but it also has that hint of peach, so it kind of ties in with what we've used on our cheeks. So this is the finished makeup look with a nuder lip. It's kind of dark nude, but still a nude lip. And now I'm going to show you with a red. So I'm going to use MAC's Burgundy liner. And this is Lisa Eldridge's Velvet Jazz. And this is the finished look with a red lip, which obviously does make it way more festive and kind of classic Christmas, but still with a bit of a twist because the eyes are not gold. So yeah, it's totally up to you obviously which lip. I feel like this eye, sorry, because it's quite neutral, there's no sort of real pop of colour necessarily in there, that you can really wear whatever lip you want and every shade is going to work. It's just totally personal preference, skin tone, whatever lip you have, it's going to look gorgeous and kapow with any lip. And I'm going to show you another bold lip option. So this is MAC's Cork liner. Really should have sharpened this one. And Lisa Eldridge's Velvet Decade. This is definitely like my favourite lip. I feel like this is more me. I feel like it's more kind of sexy, bronzy, glowy type of a look with this lip, but obviously the lip that you choose is going to be totally personal preferences. Lots of people will love a red for a Christmas party. Lots of people don't like red or are afraid of red, or it might clash with your dress or whatever you're wearing. So yeah, this will give you another option if you want a bold lip but you don't want it to be a red, or you just don't wear reds, or you don't like reds. This is like another very glam, beautiful, big night out, super glam makeup option for you, and this is definitely my favourite lip for this look. So here is my makeup all finished in much lower lighting, so you can just see how everything looks in lower, more like natural lighting that you would see if you were just indoors at a party or a restaurant.
I want to be selfish with you. I only want to see the truth. I want to eliminate the unnecessary. My vision's never been so clear.
So there you have it, guys. That is my festive New Year's, Christmas party, office party makeup look. This isn't I've just literally brushed my hair. I need to do something with my hair, but I've run out of time as far as filming. I need to get on the road. So I hope you enjoyed this makeup look. As I said, all the products and the brushes I used will be linked in the description box, as well as last year's video if you want to go for a more classic holiday Christmas red lip smoky eye, gold glitter, that kind of look. I will link that down below to give you the option. I hope you found this helpful and I'd love to see you in the next one. Otherwise, take care for now. Bye 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 bye.